Folks, welcome to a new episode of So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey. I apologize for my voice. I'm still getting over a sinus infection, but the show must go on. And I am so excited to have who I think is a legend in this field, somebody that forgets more about Bravo than we will ever remember. You know him and love him from a book that I think everybody still needs to check out. I read this every year and a half. The Housewives, the real story behind the Real Housewives, that has so much amazing information in it, and it is hysterically funny. Also, you know him from Vulture. He writes the Housewives Institute Bulletin. He also writes weekly recaps on every show, and even the miserable season of Jersey that we're sitting through right now. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Brian Moylan. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. And I must say, they are lucky they pay me to watch New Jersey.
Well, bro,
I'd make it through otherwise.
I'm doing it out of blind loyalty to Bravo. And I also have to say, I feel the social media aspect of it all makes me not want to even touch that show. I keep telling my audience, and you take a very tough stance in your view of Teresa. And that is sometimes people just can't handle it. People cannot handle if you disagree with Teresa.
I'm going to say something potentially controversial. I don't think there are as many tree huggers as we think there are. I think that they're a small and very vocal minority. And yeah. But because I hate Teresa so much, they also don't read my recap because it's basically just here's how Teresa pissed me off this week.
Well, but if you judge by a show, the show doesn't seem to work anymore in terms of narrative storytelling, or you're so held down by the legend of people like Teresa or the relationship between Teresa and Melissa that there's no room for these other ladies at this point.
No, you're absolutely correct. And I think that one of my many problems with Teresa is that I feel like she drags the whole thing down to her level, and she can't have an honest emotional conversation. It all becomes name calling and vague accusations and fake made up bullshit. And so that's how everyone needs to react, because Teresa's been the star for so long that they all have to play the game like Teresa does. And I think that just makes everybody meaner and nastier.
Yeah, I completely agree. But where do you think we go with Jersey from here?
And if I were in charge of Bravo, and I don't know why they haven't hired me yet, but
you're close. I feel you're 2 years away from running Bravo, 2 years.
They have my resume. They know where to find me. I would get rid of both Teresa and Melissa. And
yeah.
And but I think that everybody else is great. I would love to see Jen Aiden without being in Teresa's shadow. I would love to see Margaret without having to fight with Teresa. I would love to see more of Danielle's family and what's going on there.
Yes. Yeah, there's a Melissa Teresa thing right there, because Danielle has a brother that she has not talked with. She obviously has issues with her dad now. And we don't have any of those stories flourishing because we are bogged down in the past.
Yes. And I think that there are great housewives there. Jen Fessler, Rachel Fuda, all these people have the potential to be really good. But even though they're not fighting about Teresa and Melissa stuff, it's still that proxy war between them. It's still the side. And whenever the housewives get into sides, it's like trench warfare. You never move forward. You never move back. It's just lobbing the same old insults, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I've been rewatching old reunions to remind me of stuff. And I was just rewatching, I think it was season 8 of Orange County, and it's Vicky, Tamara, Heather versus Alexis and Gretchen. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing where it's just sides.
We're destined to repeat the past again and again. But I love the idea of breaking Jen and Teresa up, and I feel like Bravo is usually successful. I'm excited to see Potomac without Giselle and Robin. I'm excited. And a compliment to Erica Jane, who I don't give a lot of compliments to. I enjoyed seeing her without Rinna this season on Beverly Hills. I really got more of her story without her being a foot soldier in some ways for Rinna.
And now that Dorit and Kyle seemed to
Oh
be a bit
yeah.
at odds. The Fox Force 5 is totally gone. And, it's going to be interesting to see Kyle, who again has been like such the star of the show in the way that Teresa has been, without any real allies. Like her closest allies, Erica Jane, and they've never been especially close, at least on screen. So I think it's going to be a really interesting season for Kyle, where, she's going to have to either repair old friendships or find some new ones in order to get some people on her side.
I love it, and I love how serious we take these shows even after all these years, or we take it more and more serious each year. And I was rereading your book this week, and you reminded me that the first season of OC, Andy Cohen didn't host a reunion. They watched it in a they were in a backyard. They were in a backyard without a host, really talking about the season. And I was like, wow, how far we've come. But you pointed out the first season of OC had average viewer each of 640,000 viewers, I believe. That was the average. But it's so funny if you look at the ratings now, it's not that far from that number. Like it's not like 3.1 million. I mean, I guess if you take in 7-day ratings and stuff like that, but
I think
same-day ratings.
That's the thing that's tricky about Housewives is I actually feel like there are more Housewives fans now than ever, but because like back then, and still like the highest rated Housewives episodes are from long ago. There's like I think it's the pajama party fight of Atlanta might be the highest rated Housewives episode ever, but that was so many years ago. But that's because people are now watching, they're streaming it. They're not watching after 7 days. They're waiting for the whole season to end. There's people who have binged all of Beverly Hills and now they're going to start with this season. And I just think that it seems like we're really back in the zeitgeist. Like the other day, I went to the New York Times homepage and there was a story about Jenna Lyons' stoop sale. And then there was a review about something about her sandwiches. And then there's a story about West from Summer House, like all on the homepage. And I was like, girl, why are you coming for my newsletter?
Brian's like Tom Sandoval of like, I need actual news, dude. I'm not here to read about Bravo, dude. Come on.
Exactly. I know enough about Bravo, bitch. I don't need the New York Times to tell me. I need like real news. What, aren't you in Gaza? What the fuck?
No, the proliferation has like exploded. Even like, Vanderpump Rules with Scandoval really put everything back in the zeitgeist, even though we've had moments. And, across all streaming platforms, I think, Vanderpump got like 4.5 million viewers per episode, which is not same day, but it's everything, which is insane. And you're right. It's talked about so much. And one of my favorite facts is Twitter debuted the night of Real Housewives of Orange County's premiere. That was the first day. But the funny thing is, Bravo wasn't using it, or we're not using it the way we are now. What is your take on how much the audience is not in the driver's seat, but it's like we feel like we're in the driver's seat, and it is not maniacal, but it's not far off from maniacal. Like, I mean, listen, this week, I was sick all week, but I'm waking up to like somebody outing Kyle Cook for another potential cheating scandal. I'm like, this isn't even on camera. Like all this show is happening off camera right now. What is your take on this? Do you like it or do you hate it?
I think it's kind of in between. I don't mind it when it's people who are trying to get to the bottom of it. You know what I mean? Like that person had that video of Kyle Cook and they sent it to someone, they posted online, and it seems genuine, etc. And I'm okay with that, because I think as we've seen on some of the shows, even though we knew what was going to happen, when we see it unfold, we still love it. That said, one of the great things that made the past season of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City great was that we had no idea what was happening going into that.
Yes, had no clue.
Yeah, I do think that there's some good and some bad. What I hate, though, are those Twitter accounts, and you know who I'm talking about, where it's like, look at the new cast of Real Housewives of New York. And it's like Dorinda, Tinsley, like Dale Mercer, Martin the boxing coach. You know what I mean? These people who are just like making up lies to get clicks. I think that that's really dangerous. And I think it's the same kind of media atmosphere for everything. And I don't want to get too deep, but there's a lot of misinformation out there. And,
Well, yes.
yeah, it's like, if it's in TMZ, girl, it's true. If it's in People, it's true. If it's on fucking Dorinda Deadly, no offense to Dorinda Deadly, but like, you have to
Well,
be
and by
like,
the way,
maybe this isn't true.
and no offense to Dorinda Deadly, but I will say that account knows that the Bravo audience, no offense, is sometimes not the most discerning, and we will just see something shiny and go for it. So at least 40% of the people that see that believe it. And that's the part that frustrates me, is that I can discern that, oh, that's not real. I can pretty much go, oh, that's a media, but a lot of people will go, that's incredible. And then they'll go pass that around. They'll go spread that information. And then when there's a retraction or no retraction, nobody will see the retraction. Nobody will see that it's fake. So that stuff is just out there in the ether. And that's the frustrating part of being a Bravo fan.
Well, and as a journalist, when a lot of these rumors happen, sometimes I'll call Bravo or, whoever's reps. And so there was a thing about Eileen Davidson coming back to Real Housewives of Beverly Hills that was on one of those accounts that just said, Eileen Davidson's coming back. And I'm like, I would love this if this is true, but I do not believe that it is. So I called Eileen Davidson's rep and was like, is Eileen Davidson coming back? And they were like, no, where did you get that from? And I was like, okay. And then I put it on the internet and someone was like, no, she's coming back. And I was like, no, girl, I fucking called Eileen and asked her. And she said no. And so, it's that craziness where people just want to believe these things. And I don't blame you. I wish Eileen would come back too, but you need to have a little bit of media literacy around these things, I think. And the other one that's driving me crazy now is that Vanderpump Rules is ending. Girl.
Oh, Brian. I explained to the audience, even in just a very basic way, that these shows are here to sell soap. That's how TV was invented, to sell it. And you're not, and Bravo or any network is not like, you know what, we should end it now because it's the right time. They're not looking for the right thing to do. They're looking to sell the most soap. And they have the highest advertising rate on Bravo. They're going to find a way to make that show work, period. Right?
Exactly. Yes. There might not be the same cast, but something called Vanderpump Rules is coming back. It might be, now about Vanderpump Dogs and a whole bunch of people we don't know, but it's coming back. Regardless. Yeah, because the ratings are too fucking good. They're not going to end this show. It's not Game of Thrones and costs $120 million an episode to make, come on.
Well, I mean, that's a fascinating point, is that I always remind the audience too, is that this is a produced show. They are looking at a bottom line. They're not just throwing money at people. And that brings us to Summer House in a sense. Tonight's reunion, they bring up the big question of, was Carl blindsiding Lindsay? Also, did Carl know about this and tip off the producers for the final scene after cameras went down? What is your take on this whole debacle with Carl and Lindsay and picking back up cameras? Do you have an opinion on that?
So trying to figure out how to say this in a way that's not going to get me in trouble, but
no, get in trouble. It'd be great.
Let's say I overheard some things that I maybe shouldn't have at BravoCon from some people who I know are very high up at the network. And they were alluding to and this was back at BravoCon, so it was right after it happened. They were alluding to the same things that Andy's kind of saying in the reunion, where I think what Andy's doing is setting straight Lindsay and saying Carl didn't tell production. They didn't know. They wanted to follow up. And then this is what happened. And so I think that we actually see Andy trying to correct this narrative that I think Lindsay put out into the ether after it happened, but before we saw it. And remember, Lindsay is a PR professional and she was good at her job. She knows what she's doing. And I think that she kind of crafted this whole idea of Carl saying he was going to break up with her and calling the cameras to do it. And I never really believed that narrative. That said, is the way Carl did it right? I don't know about that, but I don't think he called the cameras to do it.
Well, okay. The only thing that keeps coming back in my mind, though, is that these shows don't throw money at things. So we had already had that final weekend fight between Carl and Lindsay at the kitchen counter, right?
Yeah.
Then a phone call happened. They're saying production called to check in on things. Now, I don't know how much production are like therapists during the off season because we've had many complaints from the cast of Vanderpump Rules that they don't legitimately care at the end of the day. So you're
Right.
telling me they called, Carl was like, well, we're going to have another conversation. And then they just said, you know what? It would be cool if we recorded this conversation, even though you're not breaking up, even though we've seen that same argument 5 times this season. Why would they then spend tens of thousands of dollars to pick backup cameras just for another fight that we've seen the rest of the season? We've already got that. Why would they spend way more money after the fact, after production shut down, to capture another argument with Carl and Lindsay? Do you think there was maybe a little bit of a nudge, nudge, wink, wink of, as a producer, I would say, wow, I think this actually might be a breakup. I won't present it as that, but maybe that's what we're going to capture.
I think production knew from the conversations that they filmed during the season where Carl's saying, I'm having second thoughts. Maybe we should go through with this. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And if that's like your last episode, you're not going to end the season on, Carl and Lindsay not sure what they're going to do. And I think that they were like, we want a conversation between you two, and it's going to go one of two ways. And I think they would have been happy with either way. If it had been like, okay, we're committed, we're going to get married, then that makes sense going into the narrative of them getting married. And I think it was about tying up that storyline of what's going on with Carl and Lindsay, because if you leave it on a cliffhanger, then they get married in between seasons and they come back the next year and maybe they're happy. It looks like crazy. That makes sense.
I think they thought, yeah, but I think they thought they were going to get the breakup earlier. I think they thought that, and they never, because I think that's, if I was a producer, we all saw that coming, even the audience. So as production, I would have thought that would have happened 4 episodes earlier.
Yeah, 100%. But also, I feel like even if the producers are, even if Carl didn't call the producers, maybe Kyle was like, guys, I think they're going to break up. Or Paige was like, they're going to break up. Or Gabby was like, they're going to break up. Like, if everyone's saying this isn't going to go how you think it's going to go, then yes, I can see why the producers might want to stick around, because it was just a few days later. So it's not, I don't think it was like they had to hire new people and go through like a whole thing. And so yes, it would have cost money, but I don't think it would have cost a ton of extra money. And I think they would have gotten what they want out of it.
I don't think Carl was like, I'm breaking up with Lindsay, but I also don't think at the end of the day, Carl went into that conversation hoping that Lindsay wanted to work things out. I
agree.
Just from
I can agree. Yes.
Yeah, from a human perspective. Like, I don't even know if he admits that to himself, but I just don't see a world in which that he was really waiting for open arms for her to say, let's make this work.
Yeah. And I think Lindsay eventually got there in that, yes, when she says like Carl made the right decision, I don't agree with how he went about doing it, but yes, at the end of the day, this was the right thing. And I think that I'm fine with her being that way. And it's funny to me, the season of Summer House, because usually when we know things are going to happen that we heard about in between seasons, it's something super dark and terrible, like Taylor Armstrong's husband's going to hang himself. You know what I mean? And it's like,
yeah.
You're waiting for something horrible to happen. And here it's like, we knew what happened, but the thing that happened was a good thing. And so we were all, it's like at the end, we're like, phew, bullets dodged all around.
I know. Well, because we have to worry. I always say we have to worry about these people for the rest of our lives, how they make their living, if they're okay. It's ridiculous. So we're all happy. But also what made this season work for me is that it wasn't just them. The load was carried by Kyle and Amanda, West and Sierra, which, by the way, what is your take on West and the potential West fallout, which I think is so funny in some ways? What is your take on West and sitting through this first reunion and the Bravo reaction?
So this might be bros sitting around telling bros that everything is okay, but like, I don't agree with the way West treated Sierra, especially lying about him sleeping with other women during the summer. I think that's like shitty and bad behavior and whatever. However, if we look at all the men on Bravo, all we've ever wanted is for them to come to a reunion and sit there and say, it's all my fault and I'm sorry I handled it wrong. You know what I mean? And that's what Wes did. I mean, if it was Austin or Shep or James Kennedy or Sandoval, they would be there yelling at Sierra, telling her how it was her fault and they didn't do anything wrong. And so, yes, I think we were maybe a little bit deceived by Wes. We got in a little bit too early, but I think a lot of people he's a villain. He's a no good person. And it's like, yeah, he handled this sticky situation poorly. But I think if we give Wes a couple seasons, we're going to see that deep down, he's not a bad guy, even though he handled this situation badly. Does that make
Brian,
sense?
Yeah, totally. But this is a huge hot take. Do you think there's a possibility that West likes to have sex with a lot of women?
I mean, duh.
What?
If I was Wes, I would be fucking every girl in Manhattan right now too. Jesus Christ, I'd fuck half the guys too. Shit. I mean,
well, the only thing that I really fault him for is that she kind of said, "Listen, I am purposely not having sex with you for a certain reason." And then even after cameras went down, I feel like he kept that going until she had sex with him. That's how it feels like. And then once that happened, sometimes we're reading into that, but it feels like that allure potentially might have went away for him and that conquest was done. That's the part that I feel bad for in a sense, because she really talked about intentionally dating. And
yes,
people are like, well, Sierra should have gotten away then. No, why is the onus always on the woman? Wes knew her worry and he still went on. And yes, of course he wants to have sex with Sierra. Duh. But this couldn't have happened at a better time. Like you said, if this happened in the third or fourth season, it would have been bad for him for the rest of his time on Bravo. This is the first season. He's going to hopefully learn from this.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was what was interesting about the reunion is that they're talking about Jesse and West and being new to this and how they're handling it. And all these people by now are experienced practitioners of the reality television arts and sciences. And, they started on the show when it was a lot less popular than it is now. And so I just think it's a different atmosphere. And I think we need to give West and Jesse a little bit of space to get their sea legs in the reality world, as it were. And yeah. So
when I say space, also that space guys means do not sleep with them for a year. You guys all everybody just throws themselves at these people. It's not gonna, like I said, it's not gonna matter at all. People are still sliding into West DMs by the hundreds in the Bravo fandom. They act offended, but they're still gonna hook up with them. It's not gonna change anything.
No, absolutely. And I think that what the problem was is we all felt like Sierra, we found this hot, funny, nice guy who's, has great parents, seems really sincere. And, and then turns out he was, maybe a little bit of a jerk. But I think that his little bit of a jerk is, look at how many DJ James Kennedy fans there are out there. And how shitty he has treated so many women on that show. And they don't give a shit. But we're mad at West because he fumbled the bag with Sierra. The reaction seems out of whack to me to what he did. I'm not saying what he did was good, but I think that fans getting so fervent about it seems a little.
I'm excited to see what he learns from this. Is this a ghost of the Christmas future? He'll never be in a scandal kind of situation. He sees all of these things, but also I wonder if there was a part of it where he sees the reaction to a Carl and Lindsay, even on the after show, he was like, holy shit, I didn't even realize how many people watch Summer House. He was so boggled that all these people cared that he saw this and potentially was like, I never want to have my relationship on this show. This is horrible.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I do believe that what, Wes said, he kind of joined this on a lark. He never watched Summer House. He didn't realize what the impact was going to be, et cetera, et cetera. And so, and I think a lot of people are ascribed oh, he went on and he wanted Sierra and he knew that would be good for him on the show and blah, blah, blah. And they're ascribing level of reality TV chess playing that we do see with a lot of these people on Bravo that I don't think Wes even knew the rules of the game when he showed up. But I think that's what makes him such a great character is that he's just being himself. And I hope that he can continue to do that in the future, now knowing what the reaction may be from the public.
It'd be great if he shows up like all in black leather, like the bad boy of Bravo. He's like smoking unfiltered cigarettes, like throwing them out. He's like, tell me about it, stud. Like, I would love that. But the Bravo audience is so funny, just like, responding to rumors. We throw all our love and all our hate onto these people so quickly. And then when they disappoint us or they make us happy, it really goes the other way so quickly. There's no in between. And I find it so interesting because we always fail to look at our own lives and what a mess they are as well. Like, we're all of a sudden like judge, jury, and executioner. And then we're like, oh my God, our lives are so much fucking messier than these people. Yet I know that's a bad person. It's really interesting to watch after all of these years. There's something really comedic about it.
No, absolutely. And it's funny if you look at, I was just thinking about West versus Luke. Like, Luke and Hannah was kind of like a very similar situation. And then Luke comes back the next season and we're like, we love Luke. So, I don't know if it's because we like Sierra more than we liked Hannah, or because the particulars were maybe a little bit different. But yeah, it still doesn't seem like crazy to me. That said, if I were to go on a reality television program, I would fuck everybody. I just want to put that. I just want the world and my husband to know that if I were to be Kat, I'm gonna fuck everybody. And
every time Brian sleeps with somebody, I'm going to say, we need Andy and a camera. Oh boy.
What do you think I say when I come?
I think you're one with a mustache. Yeah.
No, when I finish, I go, for more on the Housewives, go to BravoTV.com.
Oh my God, too much. Welcome to the Brian Moylan after show when you're there post-coitus. Summer House, amazing season. I was so into it all season. Also, a lot of people were shocked at how much they enjoyed The Valley. Where did you stand on The Valley? Did you enjoy it as much as I did?
Absolutely. And I even wrote an article on Vulture. So my editors approached me and they were like, do you want to recap The Valley? What should we do? What are you feeling? And I was like, it's going to be garbage. They have nothing. They have no trailer. Nobody's talking about it. It seems like Jax and Brittany fake broke up so that we would watch the show, and I had all this proof for why it was going to be a dud. And then they were like, okay, we're not going to recap it. Just do like one paragraph at the end of your Vanderpump Rules recap. So I was like, okay, fine. So I was like watching it out of obligation. And then I was like, oh shit, this is good. And so then I had to email my editors and be like, I'm sorry, I was super wrong about The Valley. And they were like, well, now you need to write an apology to The Valley for being wrong about it. And I was like, okay. And then we ended up recapping the rest of the season. And so, yeah, I thought we had nothing. And, it ended up being a great season. And I want to say it is not despite Jax and Kristen, who I think were good on the show, but it was really because of the other characters that they found. Like, Jesse is great. Janet is great. Zach is great. Like, I'm so glad that these people are finally in the universe and that we could experience their delusions and personality disorders, the way that they should be.
No, I mean, it's excellent in that sense. And it's a little like Summer House. It wasn't just dependent on Carl and Lindsay. It was all of these other things happening. And you're right, meeting new characters where you're like, dude, we only had 12 episodes. We don't know like the first thing about Jesse Lally yet. We don't know, they're both with other people at this point. I mean, the reaction to Janet was fascinating. Kristen was barely in the show. What's going to go on with Kristen and Luke next season? Jax Taylor is such a still pathological liar, sociopath. What is going to happen? Because the off season, it's like already Paige Woolen, all of these things happening off camera. Like, where are we going to go with this? Are you excited? I mean, were you bummed about no reunion, or did you understand why?
I understood why, just because I think that a lot of shows the first season don't get a reunion. Also, I think that they kind of rush this into production and post-production to capitalize on the scandal of it all, which I totally understand. And I actually liked what they did with the 6 months later. So they were filming about the time it was premiering. So we still got to see the breakups and the aftermath. But would I have liked a reunion? Yes, I would have. But I don't love reunions like everyone else seems to. But this would have been a good one. But what I'm most excited about is this was Janet pregnant and sober. What is Janet going to be like next season when she can drink?
Yeah. Yeah. I've said, I always have to admit that sometimes I'm not the most reliable narrator with Janet because I know her a little bit on my real life from over the years, but she's an operator. Like she knows, she collects information.
Yeah,
She gets in there. That's what, like, I don't want Sheena or Lala on this show, but like I
no.
would love to explore the Sheena Janet relationship more, just knowing some of their ups and downs in their actual life. But there is so much there yet to be uncovered. And I'm so excited that they've pitted like Kristen and Janet or Janet and Zach. And then the audience and Janet were almost pitted against each other. That I'm curious how she goes into a second season knowing that information because she pays attention to reality TV and everything that we say. How do you go in and still try to act like a normal person without second guessing everything that you're doing, wanting the audience to potentially like you, or leaning into the villain role and making that a sloppy kind of fake, fake mirage as well?
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be really interesting because, like what Zach said in the finale, which is, Janet had always taken these little bits of gossip amongst people and used it to kind of divide people. But now that everyone can watch it on the show, that strategy won't really work anymore. So it's going to be curious to see how Janet deals with that. Also, it seemed from the finale, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there seems to be some history between Janet and Zach not liking each other.
Very much so.
And
Very much so. They used to live in the
yeah,
same apartment building years ago when she lived with Logan and Jasmine was there, everything.
yeah. And I would be curious to hear more about that kind of stuff. And again, that's what this is like Vanderpump. It's like these groups of people who've been together for a long time where they're real dynamics, like real relationship. And those always make for great reality television. And so I think that whoever cast this did an expert job. And yeah, if a show is good or bad, it always comes down to casting, and they nailed this.
Well, guys, in your book, once again, The Housewives, which you need to get right now, you talk about how Bravo is a casting director's medium. You say
Yeah.
this network is a casting director's medium. Do you still agree with that? And do you still agree that Bravo, do you think for the most part they do a great job at casting still?
No, yes, absolutely. And I think that the thing that becomes harder and harder with the housewives, as I think we've seen with some of them kind of struggling in the past years, is that by getting rid of people and bringing other people on, it's hard to get that like group dynamic that you have like on a Vanderpump or a Summer House, like where you see Jason and Carl and Kyle at Andrea's wedding. Like these are real people, they're real friends. And I think we want some more of that in Housewives. But
Yeah.
I also understand how it's hard to get that when, you're trying to, make a show happen. But yeah, and I think that's not just true of Bravo. I think it's true of like all reality television. Like if there's a good season of Survivor or Big Brother or The Traitors, it's because it's down to casting. And that if there's something wrong with the show, like that's the first thing to look at.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten frustrated with casting over the years, especially in Housewives, because I feel like it's, fallen further and further away from actual natural relationships and
Yeah.
seems almost like Saturday Night Live casting, where people
Yeah.
are like doing everything they can to get in front of Lauren Michaels, buying a new house, trying to project a certain lifestyle. And all I care about is if you guys have a past. And that's what I think the Valley, like you said, does so successfully, is that you start daydreaming about the past connections. You're like, Zach and Janet, what's going on there? It's so exciting for a viewer. And I feel like that extra work can give you so much mileage in the long run.
Well, and I think I mentioned this in the book that they always ask the housewives, who are your friends? Who could you bring on? And a lot of times they don't want to say it because they don't want to cast their replacement. And we've seen that happen with, I believe like Teddy brought on Crystal Kung Minkoff and then, got fired. And, and there was a thing, like I said, I've been rewatching Reunion, and Alexis Bellino brought on Peggy onto Real Housewives of Orange County and was like, I'm afraid this is going to ruin our friendship. And then it did. And then, you know what I mean? And so, yeah. I don't just blame casting. The women have it hard too. But yeah. And that's why I think people are always like, which city do you think is next? You could literally pick, if you found a good group of friends with dynamic connections, you could do Housewives of Kalamazoo. You could do Housewives of Reno, Nevada. Like, it's all about, like, who thought Salt Lake City would be great? But then they found a great group of characters and it is amazing.
But half these housewife shows didn't start off as housewife shows. They started off as something else, and then they just put the Real Housewives thing on there when they thought, oh, like, well, I'll slap that on there. It'll be part of this whole empire. Back to the Valley, Jackson, Brittany, we did the 6 months later, and obviously we saw this house of cards crumbling that we already saw crumbling from the very beginning. What is your take? Because part of me thought at the end of the day, Jax might not have, admitted this to himself. I think part of him pushed to get back on this show or to have this show happen so this relationship would crumble.
Oh, interesting. I mean,
I know that's a leap, but
I honestly believe, because Jax is so self-involved and thought so poorly of Brittany and treated her so badly for so many years, that I think he believed it when he said she's never going to leave me. And then when she left him, he was like, oh, this might actually be good because now I can go back to sleeping with everybody.
But I love the mental health. Like, something is wrong with my brain, but it is too far to drive. And to his credit, Los Angeles sucks to get around in. So that is really, I do give him credit for that good excuse, but it is so funny. And it's classic Jax of, I've got this problem. I will continue to do nothing about it. Do whatever you need to do to protect yourself and our son, but I will not be working. I will be going to the gym every day for exercise classes, but that's as much as I'm going to do.
Know what? I don't think there was ever a therapy appointment.
Never.
And so, it's too far to drive. Like, please, Jax. Like, and I will say, I do love Jax being a pathological liar as a character, but I always say with our reality stars, we don't want them to change. Like, you don't want Ramona Singer not to be Ramona Singer anymore, but they need to evolve at least a little bit. And Jax has not changed one bit. And so it's the same pathology, the same lies, the same thing over and over and over again. And I do find that to eventually become a little bit boring. Whereas with Kristen, her crazy is a little bit different every single time. And so it like keeps you guessing like how Kristen is going to fuck this one up. Whereas you know exactly what Jax is going to do. He's going to cheat. Then he's going to say like he can't express emotion. He's going to say he's better and he's a changed person, but he's not. And yeah, I don't know how many more.
It's like Michael Keaton putting back on the Batman suit. Like, I get chills. I'm like, oh shit, Jax is like, it's still the same. He's still the same douchebag. And there's something so comforting in that. And it really warms my heart, even though he doesn't seem to have one at times. Also, the way he was comfortable in yelling at Brittany in front of her friends. And I mean, like you're a fucking, like, you better get your shit together. You're like, you better be out here cooking. Like, he was so comfortable. And all of the women, like, didn't even really respond back to, like, I don't get how all of these people at this point are still friends with Jax Taylor in the amount of shit he talks about all of them and how he openly yells at Brittany in front of them. Must be the most charming person you've ever met in real life.
Well, it's also crazy to me that at the Vanderpump Rules reunion, Andy kind of asked everybody if they keep in touch with Jax, and they were all like, well, we still talk to Brittany. And I think that that's going to be the case for a lot of Jax's, friends, is that because Brittany's so nice and lovely. But I also feel, and I feel this way about Carl and Lindsay too, that if they were yelling at each other and behaving like that in front of people and in front of the camera, what was happening when we weren't watching was a million times worse.
Oh, there were chills in Summer House when I heard that they got noise complaints from their apartment, or that Carl visited a hotel down the street that he had visited frequently when him and Lindsay got into fights. He would stay there. Like, those are little pieces of information came out like on the after show, and it gave me chills because I was like, whoa, we are seeing a sanitized version of their fights.
No, absolutely. And when they talked about filming each other, I was like, this is a totally different place. Like my husband and I have gotten into some humdingers in the day, but no one's ever taken out their phone to like world star it. You know what I mean? Like, come
Did you
on.
just drop a World Star reference? That's amazing. Well, also,
I did.
hopefully, if you're in a relationship and you're filming something, it's erotic and both people have agreed to it. That's what I hope. You hope that it's
Yes.
not some fight that you're trying to like get one up on your partner because you're on a reality show and you potentially could use that later. That's a dark thought.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And so, yeah, and I can't believe it took Brittany this long. I mean, how many years have we been telling her to leave this man? And
But it was so
thank God
great.
she finally listened.
It was so great to hear her have that monologue, though, of like, I know all this time. I see it. And like, I keep calling it the Kaiser Soze usual suspects moment, where something like she all of a sudden puts all of the pieces together and realizes Kevin Spacey was the guy the whole time. Like, this has been who Jax was. You have all the clues, you have all of this stuff. It's right there in front of you. And now you finally see it. What will be fascinating, and I don't know which way it'll go, is if she will go back at a certain point. That's going to be interesting, knowing the information she knows now.
I mean, if you, of all the people to pick for your baby daddy to be stuck with for the rest of your life, oh my God, you have Jax Taylor. Good luck, Brittany. I mean, I hope she doesn't go back. Oh, please, Brittany, don't go back. Don't go back.
I
Don't
would.
go back.
I mean, but also don't sleep with Max Boyens, Brittany. Don't do that either. Don't
Don't sleep
like.
with. Oh, I don't know. Maybe kinda.
Maybe for
I'm
one
here for
night,
that,
maybe
Max.
for a one night love affair, but don't like get away from this group of people. Like get far away if you actually want a successful relationship. Vanderpump Rules, finally we got through this season, thank God. But I'm talking about the proliferation of tertiary characters podcasts. We've got Billy Lee, we've got Rachel Goes Rogue. If you are part of this group, and also the Valley doesn't really help because it actually shows some of these people. Wait, you're telling me I can eventually really get on TV? Like I can, if I keep like hitting this button. Like, do you sometimes get exhausted about the Vanderpump Rules extended universe at this point?
I don't engage in it too much. I don't really listen to podcasts. That's not a judgment on podcasts. It's just
No.
not.
I read
like,
Vanderpod recaps. I read this Vanderpod recap site because I don't want to listen to
oh my
anybody
God.
to
Yeah.
pollute anything, you know?
That's what I need to start doing. But I watch stuff on TikTok and on Instagram and here and there. But I think it's good for the people that really want to get deep into it. I feel the same way about Housewives. It's like all these housewives, like who listens to shenanigans? Like, you know what I mean? I'm glad that they all.
I want an off season. I want a clean off season where everybody grows, goes figure it out, and I want time to grow as well. I don't want to keep storylines like it's so dark. We have Billy Lee fighting with Tom's new girlfriend, Kyle Chan's involved. All of these storylines that I can't tell. Like, is your lives really that dark, or are you trying to show Alex Baskin that we've got a season 12, Alex? Don't worry. Like, I need it to stop for a little bit.
No, I firmly agree with that. And it is weird how much, somebody said Vanderpump Rules is now a reality show about podcasters. And
that was me. And I was, yeah.
Great job, Ryan Bailey.
It's turning into a show about podcasts. Yeah. That's what that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like is that next season, it'll be like, you said this on the May episode of Shenanigans, or you said this on your La La podcast, or you said this on Billy Lee's podcast. I want that shit to be discovered or talked about on the show, not on a podcast.
So I agree with that. Do you think that all of the Vanderpump Rules people are listening to all of each other's podcasts to hear what they say about them? Or do you think that fans are taking a clip and DMing Lala and be like, oh my God, guess what Katie said about you?
I think 50-50. I think 50-50. I think on good days, they'll just open DMs or get clips. I think on bad days, they'll self-harm and listen to a whole episode. And they'll hate it. They will hate it the entire experience. But I think sometimes these people are masochistic in that sense. And there's also a little bit of narcissism thrown in there as well. So they're almost still happy to hear their name.
Do you think that there are any Bravo personalities that don't have a podcast that you think would make a really good podcast?
Bravo personalities?
Yeah.
No, not a one. I don't want any of them to have them. I'm sorry, I just don't. I don't. I want them. Also, I think they're, and no offense to a podcast because I host one. I think there's a certain level. It's like hearing that Teresa and Jen might be dealing with Twitter people and like going back and forth. I want there to
Yeah,
be an air of mystery, and I want to be able to not look up to them, but I want there to be some sort of glamour and mystery, like I used to view movie stars. I consider these people stars in a sense, and I don't want them in the mud and muck with us sometimes. I want to be able to talk
agree.
about them and dissect behavior, but I don't necessarily want them. Like, I still laugh about Teddy thinking she's like Barbara Walters. That makes me laugh at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
I I know everybody hates Teddy, and I hate Teddy too. But what I love is the housewives that I hate also hate Teddy. So I love that she's around to like annoy
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When Teddy shows up and goes, "Welcome, housewives and Vicky," like then I'm like, I fucking thank God you're here. Thank God you're here to do
Oh,
this.
Brian, did you get the OC premiere episode yesterday?
I have not, but I heard from another Bravo person that it's out, and I will be sending an email this afternoon to be like, hello.
It's out. I cannot wait to watch it this weekend, but I mean, are you excited for OC? It looked like an amazing trailer.
Oh my God, the trailer looked amazing. And I think we got a lot of juice. And I think this is a really good cast. Unlike most people, I'm big Emily and Gina fans.
I I
So
like Emily and Gina too. I mean, I like Emily more than Gina, but I don't mind them at
same.
all.
Yeah. And so I think that we're going to have a real, and Shannon and the drunk driving and
John
Tamara
Jansen,
versus
you don't
Shannon.
know John. John is, you don't know him. At the end of the night, you don't know. Like, I love mean John Jansen. I love Alexis Bellino thinking that John Jansen's her future. Like Alexis Bellino saying, "There's the door, Shannon Bedore." I was like, she must have written that before. She was like waiting to use that line. So good.
She's been sitting on that for 5 seasons, trying to
Yeah,
get back on the
exactly.
show. Like,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
know just what I'm going to say. Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a good season. And know what? We deserve one for all the shitty seasons of Orange County we sat through the past so many years. I'm ready for the resurgence, and I'm ready for it to start now.
But isn't that what being a Bravo fan is all about? Is like a sports fan, is that you go with
Yes.
them in the bad seasons because you know one season they're gonna make the playoffs. They're gonna go to the Super Bowl. Like Vanderpump Rules, we sat through a lizard funeral, but we eventually got Scandival. You eventually sit through these things because you know eventually it's going to work. And I feel like this season really could work for Orange County.
No, you're absolutely correct. And I am from a long line of Red Sox fans. And, I grew up in the 100 something years between World Series wins. So I definitely have that like, let's stick it out for the good stuff gene inside of me. And yeah, no, and that's absolutely why. It's like, yeah, it took 10 years to get to Scandival. And when you get it, like that investment was 100% worth it. I'm sorry. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm ready for a great season of Orange County.
If you could do an update on your book, or you might actually be writing a whole new update to your Housewives book, what would you include that you didn't include in the first book?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, when I was working on it, it was right before Salt Lake City premiered. So I think I'd want to include a lot of the Salt Lake City stuff, the Dubai stuff, like where those shows came from. I think I would want to include, I talk a lot about Facebook groups in the book. And now it's definitely gotten on to more like Instagram and like Discord kind of
Yeah.
things. Like I just think that it's changed enough. And I there's a whole chapter about people like ourselves who make Bravo merch and have podcasts and write books and things like that. And that kind of secondary housewives economy has really proliferated in a great
Oh,
way and
Brian,
changed.
like
Yeah.
I never 4 years ago thought that this would be my life or my living ever. There was never even a thought, an inkling. There was nothing like, so can I be in your second book? That's what I'm basically saying.
Yes, you could totally be in the second book.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that's all.
There's no second book at the moment, but when there is, but also, I mean, Reality Reckoning, I think deserves a chapter, like with all this stuff that's going on with all these lawsuits. And yeah, and so I think that there's been a lot to happen. And like I said, I think that we have more fans than ever, especially thanks to the pandemic. And so, I hope that more and more people find the book, especially for the things from the early years. I believe it's free on Audible if you want to go listen to me read it
Yeah, you guys,
for free.
I'll put the Amazon link, but also look for that Audible link too, and also the Housewives Bulletin link as well to sign up for. But I've listened to the audiobook as well, and it's, you have an amazing voice, so it is fun to listen to
Thank
and fun
you.
to read. But I would love a second book about all of this from you if you ever get so inspired, because I think there has been so much change. Like you said, the reality reckoning. As we start winding down, I did want to bring up Bethany Frankel, as I call her, because she's premiering in a Lifetime movie this weekend. Bethany Frankel is a
Really?
lead. Yes, it's called like Danger in the Dorms or something. And she has been doing some interviews saying how happy she is, what an amazing life she has. And Bethany is such an interesting character to watch, like after her post Housewives life is
Yes.
so fascinating, but also still wanting that tether with the reality reckoning and the
Yeah.
Bravo and the Andy Cohen of it all. What is your take on Bethany Frankel at this point?
Well, first of all, that fucking Chanel shit was bonkers. Like absolutely insane. Second of all, I write mostly for Vulture and New York Magazine, and I was shocked that she didn't give a quote for that big fat Andy Cohen cover story they did a few weeks
Well,
ago.
we know Carol Radswill did. She got outed
Oh,
this
I mean,
night.
dub it. That was like the least blind item I ever saw in my life. Like anyone who has watched the second of Bravo was like, "Oh, hey, Carol." Uh, but I continue to be fascinated by Bethany, and I think she always surprises us, and she knows the game so well. She always finds a way to do it. She's a brilliant marketer. She knows her audience. That she has these millions. My mother-in-law follows her on TikTok and has never watched a minute of Housewives in her life. So she's definitely like the only one who's figured out how to break out as far as one can. So
But I
I'm
feel what's so interesting
fascinated.
to me, I always viewed her as a hero. She was one of my favorite housewives for a
Yeah.
time, but now I consider her a villain. So it's really interesting to hear people that know Bethany not from the housewives at all. And it's like good for her. Where I start getting a little questionable is the reality reckoning of it all, because it
Yeah.
always felt like a personal vendetta against Andy after Watch What Happens Live with Jeff Lewis, more than something that she really cared about the working conditions of housewives and the mental health care of housewives. I still don't know, like, at the end of the day, what is reality reckoning? When are we going to get the Magna Carta of what this is about?
Yeah. No, and I really agreed with Bethany's original TikTok about it, about the time of the writers and actors strikes, that these women have some of the worst deals in entertainment, in that they're getting no residuals, they're selling their personal lives for what is not that much money for in perpetuity. They're coming up with great creative IP on the fly that Bravo's profiting off of, that they're not seeing a dime from. I definitely think that the housewives should get together and form a union and say, like, here's what we want, Bravo. But I don't think that doesn't seem like what Bethany's doing. Bethany seems to just want to make Bravo look bad. And so
Yeah.
I do think that a really good organizer could come in and organize it, which leads me to one of my favorite questions, which is, who do you think would be the person who could run the Real Housewives union?
God, that's a great question. Like, who would be the reliable narrator for a housewives? God, that's like a real stump, because I'm like, who has mental clarity in any of these?
my
I'm
answer is
real like
usually
boggled.
my answer is usually Emily Simpson. Like, she's a lawyer, she's smart, she can fight, like, yeah,
There's
like,
an element there, but I sometimes think when they're worried about their own survival on these shows, they would not make a good representative. So I
you
felt like sometimes
100% correct.
over the seasons, Emily is worried about her position on the show. So I don't know if that would be the person either. So it's really hard, because you need somebody of the esteem of Kyle Richards, but not Kyle Richards. You need somebody
Right.
with actual power. But then at the same, I mean, I truly think none of them. I truly think none of them that would be good for at all. And that's why there will never be a union.
Right. No, and that's what, someone asked Candy about it, and she was like, I'm making a shit ton off this. Like, why am I gonna fuck with it? Like, no, that's crazy. And yeah, I think that was kind of the most honest response from anybody.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's something to, okay. Finally, you did something that infuriated me on one of your Vulture articles. You said fire Jeff Probst. Now
Yes.
listen, I agree that Survivor has become a mess. I love Survivor with all of my heart. This past
Same.
season was such a mess of people that are fans of the show and have paid way too many, like way too much
Yes.
attention to the lore of Survivor.
Yeah.
But I wanted to clarify. You meant as a producer showrunner fire him. Can he stay as a host?
I would be happy with that. I always think Jeff is a great host. And was being
Yeah,
provocative in saying
yes,
that
of
they need
course.
to fire Jeff Probst. But yeah,
There
I
is an
think
element of truth. There is an element of truth because I feel like this last season and previous seasons have gotten messier and messier in the new era.
no, absolutely. And I think that my biggest problem with Jeff is that he, at some point, he said, I'm doing this game for the players and stop listening to the fans. And we both know that the fans aren't always right, or else the cast of Real Housewives of New York would be Dorinda, 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 and Dorinda. So, the fans don't know what they're talking about all the time. But I think that if people keep saying the same things and bringing up the same problems and you're not correcting them, then you need to take a deep look at what's going on. But yeah, I love Survivor, and I'm not one of those people who wants it to be like the old days. I'm all for evolving and changing and being new, but my problem is, like, are we stuck with Final Four with fire making forever? Are we
Yeah.
stuck
Yeah.
with 3 tribes forever? Like,
I mean,
I don't
but
think
I want to go
that
back to the day. I want to go back to 37 days out there. I want to go back to, like, I mean, make it tougher then, make it like harder. But I'm tired of like hearing people talk about like, well, I'm imitating this one from season 18, or I'm going to do a blind because I know that's going to look good to the jury. Like, everybody was just like, and then everybody has the hidden immunity idol, but nobody uses it. It was such a dumb group of people this season that worked comedically, but not as a game at all. It was very frustrating to watch this season.
you're right. And I think part of the problem is that the show, or Jeff, and by extension, the show, has convinced them that if you don't have an immunity idol, if you don't have these advantages, then you're not going to be able to make it. And so they all hold on to them thinking that's their only chance. But it's like, no, you got to play it. Like, if I got an idol, I would play that motherfucker right away. Like, I would figure out some way to use it, or whatever, and then find a new one, or try to find a new one. But yeah, hoarding it, just especially all this, crazy to me.
Well,
so
I love the article because it got my blood boiling, but also you made so many points that I had agreed with throughout watching the last couple of seasons. But then finally, to throw that back, is that, do you think Andy Cohen should stay as the head or figurehead of Bravo?
I'm happy with Andy being the figurehead of Bravo, because I think it's a very different situation in that Andy is involved at the tippity top level. Like, he's consults on casting, he consults on the edits of episodes, whatever, but he's not the Svengali that I think
people want him to be or think he is. Yeah.
Right. And I think that if you just say, like, oh, Andy doesn't like, and you mean Andy to mean the heads of Bravo and all these production companies, all the people involved, like, great. But, like, don't think that Andy himself is doing all this. Whereas with Survivor, I think that Jeff is way more intimately involved in the day-to-day operations and filming, etc., as the showrunner. And so I think it's different. Like, I'd be happy for Andy to keep hosting reunions and Watch What Happens Live for forever. I think he's great at his job. He has the institutional knowledge. He has been with it since the beginning, and he's definitely was a huge part of shaping this thing that we know and love today. And yeah, so I'm fine with Andy. Jeff, let's see. Know what I would love? I would love for Andy to produce a season of Survivor and for Jeff Probst to host a Housewives reunion.
You had a great idea. You had a great idea to put Jeff Probst as a contestant. Like, make Jeff Probst in Survivor. Like, I would love to see that.
I would love, well, and that's what I think the 50th season should be, all these return players. And, Jeff Probst goes, "Oh, and I'd like to introduce you to somebody else." And it's the new host. And he says, "And I'm joining the game." And so,
Oh my
like, for the 50th episode, like, Jeff goes out in a blaze of glory playing the game. And then we get whoever the new person is, whoever it might be.
But
And,
then they would vote him off in the first episode, and I would be livid. They would just be like, "Let's get him out of here. He knows too much."
oh, I don't know. I feel like it's like that season with Boston Rob or there was a season of Australian Survivor with Sandra where they kept Sandra around for a bit and then she finds her way to weasel in. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I would love to see Jeff Probst play. I just want someone to say, "And there's Jeff in last place, barely competing in the challenge." Like,
you gotta want it. You gotta dig deep. You gotta want it. You gotta Brian Moylan, thank you so much. It has been so long since I've talked to you. I need to make this more of a regular thing. You really are a legend and somebody I look up to. So thank you. Where can we support you? I'm going to put all of your links for the book and Vulture. Anything else coming up?
Not that I can talk about quite yet.
God.
Yeah.
But, will you come back when you can talk about whatever is on the horizon?
Of course. But yeah, right now we just relaunched the Housewives Institute Bulletin. We're back to every 2 weeks. It comes out on Fridays.
Good.
You can sign up for that at housewives.com or vulture.com/housewives. We're doing lots of fun things. I have an interview with Joe the Balloon Guy from Summer House.
Did you ask if he's a generous? Are you a generous lover? Yeah.
So we're doing lots of fun stuff there. So come check that out. And yeah, I'm doing OC. I'm doing Jersey. So those are up after the episodes air. So come read along, get in the comments, fight with me. Just don't tell me that you like Teresa.
Shout out tree huggers. We'll talk to you very soon.